Wait, hold on, guys. This is a beautiful video, but I just noticed something. Someone crocheted his portrait. You see that? That's actually crazy. So I'm guessing Melania was responsible for all this. The reason why I'm showing you now is because Christmas is a huge topic this time of year, and it's going to change. We're going to see a lot of news stories involving Christmas, so I decided to lump them all in together so we can go over them all at the same time. First up, we have a comparison between the Biden White House and the Trump White House. Should be interesting. I've never seen the Biden White House, so this is actually hilarious. To be fair, this wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't like a musical. Anyway, I see it enough. So now we got to get, that was just the beginning because I wanted to start off nice because it's Christmas. And here we have some Muslims decapitated and stole the head of baby Jesus statue for a Christmas nativity scene in Germany. And this isn't the first time they've done it. Germany even removed the word Christmas to be more inclusive. By the way, you're not being inclusive, you're being conquered.
Jesus was decapitated at a nativity scene, then stolen overnight after a pro-Palestine mob gate-crashed Brussels Christmas markets and chanted Hamas slogans in the street. The mayor of Brussels
Y'all are going to start making me draw Muhammad, I swear.
confirmed the head of the figurine of Jesus was stolen after being decapitated by an unknown culprit who took off with the head but left the body in place Friday night.
You know how you get them to stop this? You say, every time you chop the head off of baby Jesus, I will burn 1,000 Qurans in your name.
Their spokesman said they would replace the baby
It'll stop pretty quick.
Jesus' head. The opening of the Christmas markets and switch on of the lights at the main square was gate-crashed by a mob of pro-Palestine protesters. In this video, they can be seen chanting pro-Hamas slogans and letting off smoke bombs as families tried to enjoy the Christmas festivities. The Brussels nativity scene has been target for similar acts of vandalism over the years. In 2017, the entire baby Jesus doll was stolen, never to be recovered. In 2014,
What did they do with that baby doll?
protesters removed the Christ child's head, and in 2015, 3 youths vandalised the scene overnight. This year's nativity is believed to have cost Brussels €60,000 and will remain on display until the 4th of January, and was already subject to controversy. The council had removed the use of the term Christmas from the display, opting instead to call the scene Winter Wonders in order to be more inclusive. This was unable to deter the pro-Palestine mob who brandished the Palestinian flag as it barged onto the square and let off the smoke bomb.
They're allowed to have their culture, but if you even show a hint of your culture, they'll destroy it.
Fears have been raised over the security of celebrations across.
If we treated them the same way, we would be treated like racists. So if you're going to call us racist, then at least you got to call them racist too.
Across Europe in the
And we're not even as bad as them. The right.
run-up to Christmas. Markets across
Not even close.
Germany, France and the UK have seen barriers erected around the perimeter and armed police are set to guard them. Last year saw a terror attack in the German town of Magdeburg, which killed 6, including a 9-year-old boy. and injuring 323. German councils say security costs
Injuring 323? What?
was unable to deter the pro-Palestine mob who brandished the Palestinian flag as it barged onto the square and let off the smoke bombs. Fears have been raised over the security of celebrations across Europe in the run-up to Christmas. Markets across Germany, France and the UK
Oh, okay, across 3 different countries. I thought it was at one market. I was going to say, well, was that like a slaughter?
have seen barriers erected around the perimeter.
That's bad, though. Even across so many different countries. It's still horrible.
And armed police are set to guard them. Last year saw a terror attack in the German town of Magdeburg, which killed 6, including a 9-year-old boy, and injuring 323.
I can't even enjoy the name of the town because of all this horrible stuff going on. That was a hilarious name, and I can't even laugh at it.
German councils say security costs have risen 44% in just 3 years. What's been described as a huge security operation is underway in Britain as Christmas markets come under a terror alert. Nick Dunning, GB News.
GB News. So, and this is another one. This is a lady Muslim who is angry over a Christmas tree, wants it to be removed because it offends her. Why is the police officer wearing a hijab? Basically. She's wearing a burqa. Like, if you're wearing a burqa, you're basically married to a terrorist. Like, that's like the deeply Islamic people, right? The old school ones. Now, no concrete barriers, no armed guards, no tensions in the air, just thousands of people wrapped in Christmas lights, singing carols, drinking hot wine, and celebrating the birth of Christ in peace. Romania. You're showing the world what it looks like when a country, I don't know, there's princess. But this is actually not bad. This is just showing you what it could be like. Or like just showing you some good fun. Show's not all bad. Sometimes it's good too. I think the West needs more of this. Even the puppy gets Santa gear on. I forgot this was a song. Hope I don't get copyright. But it's a Christmas song, so it should be alright. This is the Truckers. When you tuck into Christmas food, it's because of farmers. These are UK farmers. Hence the slang. Look at that. That's beautiful with the color grade on. I fixed all the colors. It looks amazing. Wow. It looks better in the stream than on my screen. And I fixed my my computer too. Big fixes. No more lag. Cologne, Germany. So this one's short, but just look at it. We'll slow it down. Actually, I can't slow it down. I'll just slowly drag it. Look at this. Isn't that beautiful? Imagine being down there somewhere underneath that tent. And then this is Italy. Streets of Italy. Hopefully this is not copyright. It's like Italian though. Ah, screw it. If it's copyright, I'll take it. It's Christmas. Is this like a xylophone? I've never heard this played like this. Anyway, I can't take too long on these. Let's see, what's next? Switzerland. Europe knows how to do Christmas. Isn't that cool? So next up we have this is dictator Orban, Viktor Orban's Hungary, Budapest. So that's a joke because everyone calls him far right. Safe Christmas market, zero fake asylum seekers, calmness. So this is with no immigrants or like, you know, illegal immigrants from like third world countries and stuff. Oh, this is probably this is definitely copyright. Everyone looks normal. It's crazy. All right. Next up, this is actually. Oh no, we've seen that one. So we're gonna have to get into Israel and Gaza because, you know, I got to make my $7,000 and get them views. So this is just a reiteration of an older video of one of the sons of Hamas who actually converted to Christianity and became a citizen of Israel after he stopped the terror attack from happening. He's going to tell you what's really going on.
The children of Gaza were born Arab. They were born innocent. They were not born Palestinians. Then they had been indoctrinated to hate. They have been indoctrinated to blame Israel. As Cenk right now, he has been blaming Israel since the beginning of the war, but now he sees the defeat of Hamas. So now he's changing his tone a little bit, his attitude. And I like his cleverity. He's a very clever Palestinian. He's the perfect example of a Palestinian, by the way. Cenk, just right there. Because Palestinian is not limited to Gaza. Palestinian is a syndrome. It's a mental illness. It's a universal phenomenon. And Cenk is the perfect example. And if he gets hungry eventually, I will not be surprised that he will eat his own children.
I forgot about the end there. This is one of the comments. More people need to start paying attention to this man. He know what the fuck he's talking about. So here's another one that was has been going viral. This is Bill Clinton talking about Palestinians.
And the only time Yasser Arafat didn't tell me the truth was when he promised me he was going to accept the peace deal that we had worked out, which would have given the Palestinians a state on 96% of the West Bank and 4% of Israel, and they got to choose where the 4% of Israel was. So they would have the effect of the same land of all the West Bank. They would have a capital in East Jerusalem. They would have I can hardly talk about this. And they would have equal access all day, every day, to the security towers that Israel maintained all through the West Bank up to the Golden House. All this was offered, including, I will say it again, a capital in East Jerusalem and 2 of the 4 quadrants of the old city of Jerusalem, confirmed by the Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak and his cabinet. And they said no. And I think part of it is that Hamas did not care about a homeland for the Palestinians. They wanted to kill Israelis and make Israel uninhabitable. Well, I got news for them. They were there first. Before their faith existed, they were there. In the time of King David, and the southernmost tribes had Judea and Samaria.
Bill Clinton was based. Actually, a lot of people knew that, I guess. That's why he became president. In June 1964, an Egyptian opportunist on the payroll of the Muslim Brotherhood held up a Jordanian flag with the star removed, and so began 3,000 years of Palestinian history. The story of Gaza, mother of terrorist, satisfying a terrorist, terrorist, already a terrorist factory, almost a terrorist, future terrorist, former terrorist, and studying to be a terrorist. Next up, we have the Ukraine war. So there's peace talks going on right now. Very important. I'm going to give a little history. Ukraine negotiators are in the U.S. on Sunday. So on Sunday, Ukraine negotiators came to the U.S.
Well, I think these meetings are really important, not just for the United States and Ukraine to discuss the peace process and the upcoming trip from Special Envoy Witkoff to Russia, but also for the Ukrainians to share battlefield updates, what they're seeing on the ground, and how they see the war go.
So this is one of the apartment buildings that got hit by a drone.
And potential for a future deal.
I think it was a drone.
In the making. I frankly I'm not that sanguine that we're going to see a lot of positive results. If past is prologue, Russia's going to continue this war, and their strategic objectives, which is to topple the government of Ukraine, those haven't changed much. Putin likes to talk, he likes to negotiate because he feels like he could influence the United States not to pursue further sanctions on Russia, and to hold on giving Ukraine military equipment like Tomahawk missiles. But I don't see Russia very interested in negotiating. However, it's still worth pursuing, and good on the Trump administration for trying.
So that was Sunday. Now this is on the 2nd. Was today, I guess, Tuesday, right? Check here. Tuesday. So this is Steve Witkoff's escorts in Russia. So he's arriving at the Kremlin now. I guess this is citizen journalists, or actual journalists, documenting it. And you can see Anna Paulina Luna said, Jared Kushner and SE peace missions have arrived in Russia to further the USA-Russia-Ukraine peace deal. Let's pray for these men as they continue doing the Lord's work and prioritizing peace for our nation. And I don't know if these are bots or not, but I've seen a lot of people saying this. So, like, they're just complaining that it's not the Lord's work because they think that there's a conspiracy. I don't know if it's true or not. It's probably not, because the left came up with it, that Trump is just, well, I don't know if the left came up with it. It could have been the woke right too, for all I know, but they came up with Just saying that Trump is just making deals with Russia. He's not actually trying to get peace. He's trying to get like business, right? This is Steve Witkoff. The other one was Jared Kushner, but I think Steve Witkoff was with Jared Kushner. I don't really know. But this is Steve Witkoff in Russia. Luke, you almost hit him. Marco Rubio in negotiations. We are already halfway to securing Ukraine's independence. Today, we have made significant progress. So this is actually the day before. So I think Jared Kushner got there on the 2nd. And Marco Rubio was there on the 1st or something. Or maybe this might be in America, actually. This is probably in America.
Because we've been communicating. The end goal is obviously not just the end of the war. Obviously, that's essential and fundamental. We want to see the end.
I don't know, because Jared Kushner's right there. And that's Steve Wick, or that's I can't remember his name right now.
The death and the suffering, and I'm sure the Ukrainian side, I know they do as well. They want peace, but it's also.
Oh wait, that might be Steve Wick.
Securing an end to the war.
Who am I think?
That leaves Ukraine sovereign.
I got the other one mixed up.
An opportunity at real prosperity. So this is not just about ending a war. This is about ending a war in a way that creates a mechanism and a way forward that will allow them to be.
I forget the other one's name.
Never have another war again, and create tremendous prosperity for its people. Not just rebuild the country, but to enter an era of extraordinary economic progress. It's a country with Ukraine has tremendous economic potential. Ukraine has tremendous opportunity for true prosperity. Obviously, you can't do that in the middle of a war like this, but ending the war alone won't achieve that. So this is not just about peace deals. It's about creating a pathway forward that leaves Ukraine sovereign, independent, and prosperous. And so we expect to make even more progress today. And we're grateful that you would travel all the way here to Florida. We apologize for the rain. It's not supposed to be raining, but there's only certain things we can control. So thank you.
Sorry about that, guys. I was thinking Scott Bassett was Steve Witkoff. I got a little confused there for a second. Vladimir Putin is solely responsible for Russia's war of aggression. It's time to end this war and ensure Ukraine's sovereignty.
Well, Secretary Rubio said the meetings in Miami with Ukrainians yesterday were productive. He said the main focus, as it should be, is not just ending the fighting, but making sure the fighting doesn't renew in the future. Vladimir Putin is solely responsible for this unprovoked war of aggression, just as he was in 2014 when he invaded Ukraine the first time on Barack Obama's watch. So the key points, I think, for Ukraine is that they remain defensible territorial lines. Geography matters here, and a military that can deter Russian aggression in the future, no matter who is the president of the United States or Ukraine or Russia. I think that's what the focus of Mr. Witkoff should be as he goes to Russia, and he should make it clear that President Trump means business. We're continuing to arm Ukraine through NATO. We've imposed sanctions on 2 major Russian oil companies. President Trump has called for Congress to pass a new sanctions bill. The pressure will continue to increase on Vladimir Putin. He will have more to lose on the battlefield and in his economy than if he comes to the negotiating table now to end this war that he started.
All right, so after all that happened, that was Tom Cotton blaming Putin. Everyone knows, obviously, Putin invaded. But this is the former NATO commander. I didn't know he was former. But he came out and said, make sure the world knows Donald Trump is 100% beholden to Vladimir Putin's interests. This is what our allies think of our president. Embarrassing. I don't think the allies think that about Trump at all, but maybe the left does. I'm going to have to read this out. Ridiculously inconsistent and incoherent, but hey, it comes down to the same thing. So yesterday it was what the hell? Hold on, guys. We gotta refresh, I think.
Ridicule, il est inconséquent.
It comes down to the same thing.
Là,
So yesterday it was,
hier, c'était
if we said he's crazy, it would basically amount to the same thing.
non, il travaille pour
No, he works for Putin,
mais pas dingue.
but not crazy. But by that I mean Putin.
Mais je veux dire par là, Poutine, pour lui, Trump, c'est
For him, Trump is the dream.
il a
He's got a guy who does
lui demande.
everything he asks.
C'est beau ça.
That's beautiful. And he doesn't even
Il
pay
le paye
for
même
it.
pas en plus. Donc non,
So no, it's
c'est
beautiful.
beau. Là,
Yesterday he was in ultimatum mode.
alors hier, il était dans le mode ultimatum, et là, c'est une base.
And
de
that's a
discussion.
basis for discussion.
Voilà. Donc à la limite aujourd'hui.
Here we are. So if anything,
aujourd'hui, c'est une
today is good
bonne nouvelle.
news.
Il revenait du golf.
He came back. I wish French would just speak English. He came back from
Il
golf
revenait du golf, il était content.
and was happy.
Voilà.
So we'll
Donc,
see
on verra
tomorrow.
demain.
Yeah. So this NATO commander is pissy, apparently. And we're supposed to care about that for some reason. So this is actually Venezuela. We're going to get into Venezuela now. And there's good news coming out of Venezuela. And bad news. The bad news is people are trying to make Pete Hegseth look like a war criminal, which you could argue is also sedition. But good news we'll get into afterwards.
I've spoken to the Secretary of Defense, and we'll be speaking to the admiral that was in charge of the operation. The Secretary did indicate, which has now been in the news media, that there was a second attack.
Were there survivors who were killed in that second attack?
I don't have that information.
Do you worry that
But I do think we'll get that information, and we're certainly going to have available to us all of the audio and all of the video.
Chairman Wicker did not directly answer when Manu asked.
So anyway, Secretary of War, not Defense, Pete Hegseth is basically being accused of committing a double tap, or ordering a double tap, and we're going to get into that in a second. Well, I just wanted to play that because it has to do with Venezuela too. And this is Maduro publicly surrendering to Trump. I'm pretty sure this is true because it's going viral. Maduro has allegedly turned in state evidence against the Biden administration and is releasing proof that Biden asked the Venezuelan government to ship Tren de Aragua drug gangs into the United States. So he's ratting on Biden to get out. I ask you to use the campaign of the Biden administration on the issue of the Aragua train. Now, I've seen a documentary. This train, all the people that were involved said that, like the cops and stuff that you thought were corrupt, they said, like, no, we're working for the government and the United States pays us to do this. And it's like they're like bringing in like train loads of people, and there's people like literally dying on this train, trying to get on it, trying to get off it, sitting in coal, and then like the train, they're sitting on like coal and like gravel and stuff and sand, and then the train rattles, and they sink down to the sand, man. Like it's unbelievable the stories you'll hear. Just watching, I think it's called Sound of Freedom. I'm not 100% sure, but it was like just to, like hearing Buddy, the director, talk about it because he actually went on the train and saw it himself. Crazy. He said, I have a very clear position on that. I tell President Donald Trump, with respect, ask for reports of the last 4 years of the FBI and the DEA of the offices in Colombia, so that you can see President Trump, who financed, who moved, who directed the famous Agua train, who took it to Colombia, who took it to the United States, and asked for the verifiable reports so that you know that here in Venezuela, we defeated, dismembered, and finished with that violent criminal group that intended to use to be used from Colombia with deep ties with the former Biden administration to bring terrorism to Venezuela. If there's anything to say about terrorism of the Agua train, the extinct Agua train, it is that we wanted to attack the cities of the country with terrorism, and we avoided it. Look with intelligence, with action. President Trump asked for these reports so that you can see them. I say this with sincerity and respect, so that you can see the truth about the famous Agua train. Our migrants are not criminals. They are not bad people. They were people who immigrated as a result of the sanctions. They are people of good, people of work, and in Venezuela, we welcome them as a productive force with a loving hug. Welcome back to the homeland, family reunion. Welcome, everyone. So it sounds like Trump made a deal with them to take back all the Tren de Agua members. And he's saying like, oh, they're good guys. We got, we're going to get these productive members of society back, right? Because he's a leftist. Venezuela is not just a narco state. It's a terror hub working with Iran, Russia, and China. Former DOD intelligence analyst Jason Buttrill explains. So many people high level within the military were part of the narco terror group. The head of the snake is Maduro.
They never actually declared themselves, we are the Cartel of the Suns. They never really said that. That was a nickname because so many people high level within the military inside Venezuela were part of this narco terror group, and they were getting kickbacks, and it was alleged that some of them were actually giving orders specifically all the way down the food chain. But their generals, I think it's maybe colonel and up, or maybe general and up. I think it's general and up. Instead of stars, they have a little sun insignia. So like 3 suns, like a 3-star general, or on and so forth. That's why they were given that nickname, because they are part of this group and they are part of the military. Now, the head of that snake is Maduro. So he gives the orders down to the generals give the orders down. So that's how they were able to classify the entire government, in a sense, as part of this cartel, part of this entire terror group. And that is where, Glenn, it gets kind of interesting when it looks like constitutionally, what can they pull off? What can they do as far as military action when the head of the snake...
I didn't realize this guy was talking to Glenn Greenwald. So that means he's probably, it's kind of like a Tucker psyop, if I were to guess. This is probably a guy who, for whatever reason, doesn't want this to happen, or got paid to say this, or he was picked out by Glenn to fit a narrative that Glenn wants, or whatever, right? So listen to this with a grain of salt.
Was the head of this cartel, allegedly, is the one giving these orders, then that really kind of frees them up to do whatever they want when it comes to...
Right, because this cartel...
Oh, never mind, it's Glenn Beck, we're good.
It is a terror cartel. Explain the island and everything else.
I still don't trust this guy, though.
Yeah, so the cartel is more involved with, well, it's more involved with drugs, but I say that, but they're, these groups are absolutely, in the true sense of the definition, terror organizations, the way they operate.
Right.
But the terror...
That's just their money. That's just where they make their money.
Right. And then, but it goes way beyond that, as you're talking about. Like, there is Margarita Island. There's an island just off the coast of Venezuela where Iran sends people to train there, to be stationed there. The Venezuelans come down from groups like Tren de Agua and others to train there, sometimes going from Margarita Island all the way back to Iran to get more specialized training. Then they come back. Who knows where they go from there? Possibly in the United States. Who knows? They've held meetings, secret meetings inside Venezuela with the top scariest of the scariest terrorists to meet with Chavez, and then who knows later, potentially even Maduro. This is a terror hub. This is also a terror hub that is which I just described is working with Iran, but also Russia. Russia sends submarines to guard. They did this back in 2018 to show support, military support for Maduro. China is funding a lot of their stuff through oil. Russia is sending tankers to transport Chinese Venezuelan oil to China. Glenn, it's all part of the network. And as you're talking about, this goes way beyond anything where you just talk about narco groups coming from Venezuela to the United States. It is so much more integrated into that. And I agree with you.
I want to say that there's a report from Washington Street Journal, which is also reporting other things that are false. But this one report is saying that China and Russia won't get involved in helping Venezuela. So it makes sense that Maduro surrendered.
I think the Trump administration just lay it all out on the table. Say, this is what's going on. Congress wouldn't really even be able to talk. The Democrats, they wouldn't even really be able to counter any of it. It would be so obvious. They should just do it.
Crazy. Next up, we have there's Washington Post and Washington Journal, so they kind of mess with me. I don't know which one's which sometimes. So I'm going to try to stay as accurate as possible. But the Washington Post, which is not the Washington Street Journal, said that the Defense Department under Pete Hegseth has been co-opted into President Trump's norm-shattering bid to exploit what are supposed to be nonpartisan tools of government to crush political foes. So this is the propaganda, okay? Maybe Washington Street Journal is actually legit. But Washington Post, all mainstream media is bullshit anyway, to be honest with you. A lot of it is bullshit. Like, this turned out to be false, is what I'm getting at. But I just want to get into like some of the things they were saying. So this is Chris Murphy. He is I think he's a senator for
Pete Hegseth.
Is one of the states. I don't remember which one.
Pete Hegseth needs to resign. And if he doesn't resign, Donald Trump needs to fire
He's a politician. That's all that matters.
him. He is a walking, talking national security embarrassment. He seems more interested in winning video pull-up contests than he does in protecting this nation. He's obsessed with the weight of his soldiers.
Hegseth orders hundreds of generals to D.C. to tell them no more fat troops or beardos.
Facial hair of his soldiers, not concerned with actually keeping the country safe. He's
like, look at the headline, but don't
leaking classified information. He's banning reporters.
Look at all these headlines. They're scared. Hegseth said to have shared attack details in Second Signal chat. So this is what they call Signal Gate. This is where someone added a reporter to the Signal chat by accident, and then basically classified intel was leaked. But it was only classified for like 5 seconds before it happened, CNN Business, Pentagon charges ahead with press restrictions designated to stifle a free press, media orgs say. So the free press is like a scam, basically. A couple of reporters will go in and report on something, and then all these like CNN, all these like major news organizations will just parrot. There'll be like one story, and then they'll all say it just slightly different. And then you'll think it's true because all these news organizations said it, but really it was only one person that reported on it. And they might have like missed a detail, or they might have been biased and reported it in a way that made them look good or whatever, right?
Orders from the Pentagon. There's no mainstream outlet right now that is telling you, the American public, what's happening inside the Department of Defense. But maybe most egregious is what we learned in the last week. that Secretary Hegseth gave a grossly illegal order, an illegal order to kill everyone aboard this vessel.
This is the claim, okay?
In the Caribbean, an order that ended up with our military not just shooting at the boat, but then shooting at the human beings.
See how much he's blinking?
Who were swimming from their lives amidst the wreckage. That is not allowed under
It's usually a sign of stress, like when you're lying, right?
U.S. law. It is deeply immoral. And we simply cannot protect this country adequately if we are a moral embarrassment in the eyes of the world, if we have a Secretary of Defense who is enthusiastically giving outright illegal orders to the chain of command below him. Every single day that Pete Hegseth is at the Department of Defense, this country is weaker. You are less secure.
Dude, I think his eyes are closed more than they're open. What the hell?
This last revelation
I can't unsee it.
about this grossly illegal order that he gave is just final confirmation that the United States can.
Like, you can't do that voluntarily. Like, that's involuntarily. His eyes are stressed, right? Like, his brain is stressed.
Protect itself for one more day adequately with Pete Hegseth at the helm of the Department of Defense. He needs to resign.
Dude blinks like 3 times a second. What the hell?
Or Donald Trump needs to get rid of him today. Pete Hegseth.
His eyes got more frames per second than my computer, man. All right. Now, this is from November 30th. So this is Pete Hegseth. He said, for your Christmas wish list, a classic Franklin story. Franklin targets narco terrorists. And it shows him like blowing up like a boat in the water. But that was pretty funny. Senator Mark Kelly, one of the seditious six, is now on the verge of tears over Secretary Hegseth's meme he's putting out on the internet. Turtles with rocket-propelled grenades. Now just keep in mind, this is one day after this post. So this happened first. And then this story came out that evening. Right? And then, even later that evening, this story came out. Or this guy posted this. And then the next day, Mark Kelly said this.
He's putting out on the internet turtles with rocket-propelled grenades. I mean, have you seen this? This is the Secretary of Defense. This is not a serious person. He should have been fired after Signalgate.
He's good at lying. Or he believes what he's saying. Could be either way. But I mean, he's a politician and he was in the military, so you'd think if he actually did see action that he would have good nerves, right? David Pakman, after days of denying the story as fake news, now Carolyn Levitt says, this is from, this guy's a huge leftist, by the way. Now, Carolyn Levitt says, of course they ordered a second strike, and it was very legal and very cool, and they found an admiral to take the fall to protect Trump and Hegseth. I hope Admiral Bradley is lowering up. What probably actually happened was Pete Hegseth wasn't going to sell out his admiral, because what happened was the admiral, Admiral Bradley, ordered the second strike and not Pete Hegseth. And so Carolyn Levitt was in an awkward position where she was trying to protect him and Pete Hegseth, right? So what she said was the story was fake news, because the story was fake news. It wasn't, well, why is everything so... Yeah. So he said that Pete Hegseth, or she was trying to say that the story, shouldn't have been about Pete Hegseth in the first place.
That's why you've seen a drastic difference in this administration's policy.
Because Pete Hegseth didn't order the second strike, right? But she was also trying to defend the second strike because she's part of the U.S. government, and the U.S. government, the admiral works for the U.S. government, basically, right? So she has to defend it either way.
With respect to the last, and it's one of the many reasons the American public reelected this president and support this Secretary of War in conducting these strikes.
And they're trying to twist her words because she's not saying that it never happened. She's saying that Pete Hegseth isn't the one that ordered it.
To clarify, Admiral Bradley was the one who gave that order for a second strike.
And he was well within his authority to do so.
And a separate question.
See, she defends Admiral Bradley too.
The president several days ago said it was his intention.
And the counter argument to that, even though she didn't say it, is actually that if those people did live and if they had surrendered, which they didn't surrender, but if they had surrendered, you'd have to let them come in. But the counter argument is that if they called for backup or let people know what happened, then their location would be given away. So we're going to have to sit on the story and see what happens, you know? And then this is talking about the New York Times actually broke the story. I don't know why this is happening now. Isn't this supposed to be now? Hold on a second, guys. This browser does that sometimes. It's super bright like that. But anyway. Fix it for next show. The New York Times said that reports that the story from the Washington Post that alleged that Pete Hegseth ordered narco-terrorists who survived an attack to be killed is false. So basically, New York Times reported that according to 5 U.S. officials who spoke separately and on the condition of anonymity, I can't even say that right now for some reason, to discuss anonymity. There we go. To discuss a sensitive matter that is under investigation, Mr. Hegseth, ahead of the September 2nd attack, ordered a strike that would kill people on the boat and destroy the vessel and its purported cargo of drugs. But each official said Mr. Hegseth's directive did not specifically address what would happen or what should happen if a first missile turned out not to fully accomplish all of those things. And the official said his order was not a response to surveillance footage showing that at least 2 people on the boat survived the first blast. Admiral Bradley ordered the initial missile strike and then several follow-up strikes that killed the initial survivors and sank the disabled boat. As that operation unfolded, they said Mr. Hegseth did not give any orders. But I think what happened, I think what their argument's going to be is Pete Hegseth told the admiral to kill them all, right? And so the admiral ordered the second strike in order to accomplish that task. So I don't really know. This is going to be a hard one. And now this one, we're actually going to have to go here. Hold on, let me fix something here, guys. I know I'm taking us half course for a second, but this will make it a lot better. Hopefully. I don't know why it does. Okay, anyway. Laura Loomer. So Laura Loomer said, oh, I clicked on the wrong thing. Hold on. My bad, guys. So Laura Loomer broke this from the Pentagon because she's a Pentagon reporter now. She said the Secretary of the Army's office plotting coup at the Pentagon to remove Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and replace him with Secretary of the Army Dan Driscoll. Secretary of the Army Dan Driscoll. Let's take a look at him actually for a second. This is Dan Driscoll right here. So over the last 2 weeks, the legacy media, which is incredibly hostile to Hegseth, has been posting puff pieces about Dan Driscoll and how he's a rising star at the Pentagon. Sources have told me that Jake Sullivan, this guy, National Security Advisor to President Biden, Jake Sullivan, the former National Security Advisor of the United States under Joe Biden, is very close friends with Dan Driscoll, and they have been friends since they both attended Yale Law School. Driscoll and Vice President Vance also met at Yale Law School, which is how Driscoll was nominated as Army Secretary. High-level sources at the Pentagon have confirmed to me that Sullivan has been planting stories in support of Driscoll because Sullivan wants Hegseth removed and replaced by Driscoll. Sullivan is worried Hegseth and President Trump are going to take action against the seditious six. The 6 Democrat lawyers who are now facing federal inquiries, or Democrat lawmakers, who are now facing federal inquiries and an FBI investigation after they recorded a video in November 2025 urging U.S. military service members not to follow unlawful orders, a message President Trump and Pete Hegseth have called seditious. One of the seditious 6 is Democrat Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander, Representative Goodlander, the wife of Jake Sullivan, who goes by a different last name to hide the fact that she's married to Jake Sullivan. It is worth noting that Goodlander is a Naval Reserve intelligence officer, which means she could possibly face disciplinary actions by Hegseth for her seditious behavior. Goodlander and Sullivan got married in 2015. Some of guests at their wedding include Hillary Clinton, Lisa Monaco, Huma Abedin, Samantha Power, Victoria Nuland, and Anthony Blinken, all of whom are anti-Trump deep state operatives. Sullivan previously served as Director of Policy to President Barack Obama, National Security Advisor to then Vice President Biden, and Deputy Chief of Staff to Secretary Hillary Clinton at the U.S. State Department. Sullivan also served as Senior Advisor for the Iran nuclear negotiations and as a Senior Policy Advisor to Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign against Donald Trump. Hegseth has accused these 6 Democrat lawyers of committing sedition, and he is considering court-martialing Senator Mark Kelly, one of the seditious 6. According to FEC records, Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander, the wife of Jake Sullivan, donated a max donation of $2,800 to Dan Driscoll when he ran for Congress in 2020 in North Carolina. Why would an anti-Trump Democrat Congresswoman married to Jake Sullivan, one of the architects of the Russian collusion hoax, donate to a Republican candidate for Congress who would later move on to be President Trump's Army Secretary? Jake Sullivan played a central role in the Clinton campaign's efforts to promote the Trump-Russia collusion story, including feeding journalists details about the fabricated Alpha Bank Trump server allegations and linking the campaign to the discredited Steele dossier, which is the one that claimed Russia collusion. Claims that triggered years of investigations and were ultimately exposed as a partisan hoax. Additionally, as I previously reported, Driscoll posted a photo of himself earlier this year hanging out with Eugene Vindman, who collaborated with his brother Alexander Vindman to impeach President Trump over false allegations. Now Sullivan is working with high-level Army officials and Army Secretary Dan Driscoll's office to force Pete Hegseth out and install Dan Driscoll as Secretary of War, despite the fact that President Trump loves Pete Hegseth. I'll be asking about this attempted coup on Pete Hegseth at the upcoming Pentagon press briefing this week. And here's some of the proof. Hard to see, because everything went crazy. All right. Now, let me see if I can fix this. real quick for the last one. Boom. Now, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. Yesterday, I met with Nigeria's national security advisor and his team to discuss horrific violence against Christians in their country. Under POTUS's leadership, Department of War, is working aggressively with Nigeria to end the prosecution of Christians, jihadist terrorists. So let's just take a look at these pictures. Pretty cool. I'm glad they're finally working to help the Nigerians. Let's see, is there anything left to show? Crime. I started with Christmas for a reason, guys. This is a horrible story. There's a video, but it's not that bad. It's just that the cops going in. It's actually a good video. The cops going in and arresting him. So the death penalty, that's God's side. Breaking 4 men, 26, 39, 42, and 46 arrested for international satanic child rape ring, sharing thousands of videos depicting infants to 12-year-olds. Sydney, Australia. World, we have a problem.
Four men have been charged after police uncovered an alleged Sydney-based network of child abuse material with satanic and ritualistic themes. Strikeforce Constantine officers executed simultaneous warrants in Waterloo, Ultimo and Malabar, seizing electronic devices that allegedly contained thousands of files. Police said the material was linked to an international website and involved victims ranging from infants to children aged up to 12 years. Landon Ashton Versace Germanotta Mills, a 26-year-old man, was arrested in Waterloo and is alleged to be a leading figure in the group. Germanotta Mills describes himself as the founder and editor-in-chief of independent news site The Underground Media Network, which boasts it is committed to exposing institutional abuse, systemic failures, and the misuse of power. 3 more men, aged 46,
Sounds like a leftist to me.
42, and 39, were arrested at a nearby unit block. All 4 were charged with a range of offences, and each man was refused bail.
Sick people, man. Someone found a box of pills that cures pedophilia. And me explaining to Jesus that pedos aren't people, so throwing them in a wood chipper isn't a sin. Now, it's so mean of the white guy to defend himself. In a truly fair society, whites should quietly get raped and unalived by their noble BLM overlords because of reparations. So, this is a guy, he tries to set up a fight club, a fight clip.
I'm out here by myself. Fuck these niggas, man. Fuck you talking about, man. I'm out here. Go, nigga. Suck my dick, nigga. I'm out here. Suck. There you go. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. There you go.
Guy just backs out of there.
He's in trouble now. He's in trouble now. He's in trouble now. What's he gonna do? Come on. He's gonna get his head beat.
He wasn't very good at fighting. He got his arms wrapped up in his shirt. He's knocked out now. You don't know what world he's in right now. So I thought this was funny. It was at this moment he knew he had effed up. It's so beautiful. And that's the end of our show. I want to thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, share, subscribe, and follow. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.